own stuff, look at it towards the end, which is what we're doing here, and check, is this really what I wanted? Is it too much? Why do I need all of this? Is it really relevant? I put my heart into this, but do I need all of this? Keep the respondent's task very simple. Provide clear instructions. Use clear, unambiguous language. Give a rationale for any item where you think the purpose isn't clear. Keep on explaining so that they understand. Check for unwarranted assumptions or things that are implicit in what you want to do that they might not think the same. You've got to understand how you view this so that they can answer you. The fundamentals of a good questionnaire, it's got to make reasonable demands on time and expense and effort. Nothing unreasonable with regards to the respondents. Avoid too personal questions or questions phrased in the wrong way. Designed to accomplish the goal, not to collect just data. You have a specific focus, and that's what you do. Not just data because I can deal with it data. Respondents must have relevant knowledge to share on a specific topic, so how do you filter for that? Be encouraging by asking interesting and engaging questions at the start. So you set sort of the scene so that they feel good about this, and then you lead to sensitive questions later. Use other sources than just a written questionnaire. So you can do interviews too. You don't always have to use a flat questionnaire. Define the topics, the areas of investigation clearly to avoid misunderstanding. That for me goes back into the cover letter that's got to accompany the questionnaire. Be reasonable when planning the what, when, where, how of the research plan, that this is executable and doable. So here's the format of the questionnaire. Give detailed instructions on how to answer. Even if you use the matrix format, still at the beginning of every section, write again. Mark the most appropriate box with an X, again and again, so that they are reminded again how you want that response. This is especially important if you change your style and you want them now not to mark the most important box, but to mark all the boxes that are relevant in that case. Then underline and put in caps. If it changes that, now they've got to mark all of it so that it stands out. Number the pages and the questions. Tell the respondents exactly what to do and how to do it. Use a cover letter. Don't lead them into temptation. Be careful of undesired responses. Initial questions should warm up and then lead to the specific or the sensitive questions. At the end, write them, thank you very much for helping with this. Become more complicated later on, but not initially. Make it easy to score the categories. Use mostly closed-ended questions and then leave space for open-ended questions. What goes into the cover letter? It's essential as part of your questionnaire because it helps set the scene. If you can, use an official letterhead. You know, one doesn't use a letterhead if you don't have permission for that. But use an official letterhead. Date it recently, otherwise indicate that this is urgent. Make it personal, so write the person's name in the letter if you can do that. Clearly state who you're dealing with. So, dear participant, dear Mr. So-and-so, so that they know. If you're directing this at the HR directors, say so that it's clear to who this should go. State the purpose of the questionnaire, the purpose of the research. Give them a sense of how long it will take them to complete this. Promise confidentiality and anonymity. Make the participants feel part of the project. Thank them and sign the questionnaire. The problems with the questionnaire is, of course, the low response rate, but we've taken 1.5 days to talk about how can you increase the response rate. And the other problem is the one that you mentioned, and that is that your respondents might not be necessarily part of the original population because of that. You started very nicely, and then you went for a sample frame, then you did a sampling technique, and now you sit with a group here. But to what extent can you generalize back to the population? That depends on the response rate, and it depends on the size of the sample. And if you can have categories straight up, then do that because that increases the significance of the study. It would be nice to use checklists, so they just can check what they agree with, or to use rating scales like the two sets that I showed you, single item or multiple item scales. The timing of the research is important. Why? Because some times of the year they don't have time to complete this, and you've got to send this out at a reasonable time. Rather wait, even if it's urgent, rather wait a month until you feel now is a good time to send it out, and then give them a week or 2 weeks to submit and follow up. And sending it out because it's urgent, but it's not a good time for them. Make a good first impression. Motivate the potential clients by offering them something or by explaining what the value of the research is. If this is hard copy, include a self-addressed envelope. Make them ready and work up the interest. Be gently persistent, and then keep a log of the returns. When you collect the data, you've got to have permission from the institution. You've got to decide on a measurement scale. You've got to decide where to get the data. You've got to back up. So if the data comes into Excel, please have a backup someplace else, in the cloud, in the iDrive, wherever you want, but keep a backup, because if you lose that, how are you going to get the data back again? Train the people to do the data collection so that they do how you want this done. Project manage the whole process from the start to the finish. Don't influence their behavior. Make sure that there's no bias, that they're not getting bored, and stick to your definition. So when you have a definition,